Hello everyone, I'm Xiaogan. Okay, in this lesson, we're going to start writing something about the communication between our DS and DSM. So we need to use this communication plugin. In this communication card at our WSM here, we need to handle one thing. We need to add a connection here. This is because when I was testing later, I found that if you don't add it here, when we include the same component, it won't find it. Why can't it find it? Because our Build.cs, we only wrote subshipment before, but actually this connection, it didn't make it public. So once we include the connection file, it won't find it. Because as long as it includes the subsystem file, it will include it through the connection through this header file, include it through this location, this file of the connection, right? So we add this here, this way. When we use our plugin in the CI pipeline, it will be convenient to avoid some compilation issues. Okay, this part, everyone, is also a small detail. Please pay attention. Okay, I'll play that. Let's not touch it. Then we had this project before. Our compilation had no issues either. Compilation had no issues either. Then we just need to copy this plugin out. So how do we do it? Actually, come here. Okay, we just need to copy this plugin because they are all complete plugins. Basically, they can be compiled directly. Okay, as for the plugin, we don't need to touch it because after we've written it, this plugin cannot be modified. We can only add things to the project. So let's come to these two projects respectively. Then we have the manage and games projects, because we could actually merge them together. The reason they are not merged together is that I don't want to merge them together. Because when I make courseware myself, I definitely merge them together. Because I myself know very well how to use them. If I were to merge them together for you here, you would be confused because one project of yours actually produces 3 programs, then you would feel uncomfortable. You wouldn't be able to distinguish what each of them is used for. Okay, once this is done, we will then open these 2 projects. We will start gradually improving the related code. Good, we have already opened these 2 projects here. This is my courseware. This is multigate DSM-manage. Now let's compile it. Let's first make sure the compilation passes, because many friends might often get stuck on compilation issues. At this point, it doesn't have this plugin. So we need to refresh it. Maybe we forgot to refresh. It's because you added something new. You might need to refresh it. Let's refresh it now. Okay, let's get this plugin to show up. The plugin, okay, this is our JAM project. Try compiling it. It should be fine. This part is a bit laggy. It's mainly because this thing is really complex, because it involves the Unreal Engine, and also involves many projects, and also involves plugins and such. So we try to ensure that before we start taking action, we maintain consistency in this environment. You see this place? It is compiling our plot sheet because our source engine is version 5.4.2. You see, basically, the compilation should have no issues. Then here, we go into our UPack. We need to include our plugin here. This is a good habit. Whatever plugin you use, include it to avoid some strange problem. Okay, we paste the plugin name. It should be this plug name. Good, right here. Let's delete this. Okay. We'll leave this part as it is. Paste it. Pay attention to this comma. Never omit it. And don't write comments inside uproject. I used to have this habit. I like to force some comments in uproject in case people couldn't understand, because it's a generated file, so you can't write anything in it. You just follow its conventions, and this place as well. We are here. Add our plet call to upbreak. Let's compile it again. There should be no problem at this point. Then we add our communication module in this Build.cs. The name of this communication module should be this. It should be this name. After we add this name, actually, after adding it, you can refresh the project. I am being very careful here. Okay. We need to add it here as well. Here, okay. Let's confirm again. At this point, it should compile successfully as well. Okay, to ensure safety, we still need to refresh the project again. Refresh the project again. Refresh these 2 projects separately again. Just refresh them again this way. Okay, we have now successfully imported this module. And there are no compilation if the plague chant is also ready. Now let's take a look at what we wrote. The code we wrote this courseware, because our part here is actually very simple. It's equivalent to us having a in our B gameplay. Don't look at the specific structure. Just listen to me. In B gameplay, we go to our DSM, we open the subscript system, and then we handle the corresponding received information. Then during underplay, we close all connections and just shut down the server. Then when receiving information, we have made a simple classification of the information. So in this place, it has a secondary packaging of the information, meaning we wrapped another layer. Because by wrapping this layer, we don't need to interpret it. It was explained very clearly earlier. Then we wrapped a layer here. Based on the different information in each session, we return different information because this side is the server pole. So we just need to keep requesting. If we are on the DS, it will automatically request init DS related information. If it is the client, it will initialize the client related information. And this part is the client requesting all DS information. Then this part is the client requesting the DSM to open a new instance. So actually, each of these sentences correspondingly, it's actually just this information. So it's quite obvious that it was sent from the other end. Here, we need to completely discard the concept of client and server. The reason is that if I were to apply this client-server concept here, it would be a bit confusion because sometimes they are each other's client and server. So we'll just call it DSM. Then, along with our players in DS, it's quite obvious that this is sent from DS to DSM. This is what the DSM returns to the DS. You can take some notes because this part is a bit tricky, and here it is very obvious. This is what our player sends to our DSM. This is what the DSM sends back to the player, because according to this enumeration, we will pass different data. And here, the player requests all instance information. So here, the server returns all instance information to the player. And here, the player requests. Sorry, I confused the server with this concept again. Failed. It should be the player sending to DSM, requesting all DS information. This is DSM sending to the player, returning all DS information. And here is the player requests from DSM to create a new level. This is after the creation is complete. Information returned by DSM to the player. So here, our FMultiMessage is our most basic message, though our most basic communication message serves as an enum to identify it. What is our current type? So we can parse it, then the specific data is the data. So obviously, when you initialize the character and initialize this, when initializing the DS, the information passed is different. When you initialize the DS, you need to pass this, for example, the IP port, the level name, and so on. So actually, this row type is a bit redundant. It's just to tell you that here, there are players and the DS. Then, actually, between our DSMs, communication is also possible. But we won't do that. We want to keep it simpler. We'll try to use just one or a few lessons to explain it clearly. Otherwise, if we go back and forth, making it very complicated, it won't be good for your learning. Then the D symbol here is the specific description of the information for this DS, and this is sent during the request, meaning this information is sent during the initialization request. It is still quite clear, and this place is equivalent to, this place is the response. That is when the player requests, when requesting all DS information from the DSM, then we will send such data to them. These are all actually data. So the data needs to go through. This data is placed here. This is the first level data of our information. These are all second level data. The second level data behind this. And this, for example, is client, not called client. The player sends it to the DSM when initiating our connection. The player will send this information. This is secondary data. And this is the player corresponding data on the DSM. So here we will have a type specifically for storing this data. Okay, so that covers the DSM side. The DSM mainly handles receiving information. In our communication, that is the server, similar to a server. That is our DSM. So when we send messages, it is mainly in these. Mainly in our, don't look at this game mod, mainly on our clients and Ds, obviously in our, so it is mainly responsible for the function of sending messages. Therefore, in this place, it will start, that is on our player, and on our DS, it will start our such information, such as subsystem, will start the one inside our plugin, the client subsystem. And then during begin play, they will connect with our server subsystem to establish a connection. And when they will shut it down upon exit. Then when we connect successfully, we need to initialize and tell our DSM what row we are. Just then, according to the getLetModel function, we can get our current row. So if you are a client or in a standalone mode, so we consider you to be the player. Then we will send a player message. Through this player message, we convert it into a JSON and place it here. Then we take this thing and put it into the larger JSON, this top level data, inside the top level data JSON, and send it to our DSM. If you are the server, then through this port of ours, we can obtain the current DS, the exposed game server port. Then we take this IP along with some of your information. Let's integrate it together. Then as secondary data, this is the secondary data. Then convert the 2G data to JSON. Then put it into the 1G data. So this is obviously this place means this is the 1G data. So this 1G data thing. Then we take this 1G data, fill the 2G data into the 1G data. Then finally take this 1G data, send it to our DSM. So these are the two types called initialization. After the book is completed, we will proceed to the communication phase. So when we communicate, we mainly receive information. When receiving information, we certainly need to send information. This interface will only be called by the player. Request all DS information. So we prepare our primary data here. We mark the current content. After we finish marking, we establish this connection in begin play and send it to our DSM. So imagine this. This is 1. It is very likely that DSM will be here on our server car. This place is the server car. The server car is here. This is the server car. If the server car is here, we will receive this. Request all related DSM information. We take this DSM related information. For example, this DSM here. It will have a host or something. There will be a host for this DS information, player list, etc. We just directly take this list, send it back. After sending it back, this is the second step. Then in the third step, there will definitely be a reception. Because we are very special, our players and DS are built from the same code base, so we can only write it this way. Then here, we might receive this when specifically responding to all DS information. Here we receive all the information. Then we print it to the screen. This is a complete interaction flow. Okay, that's roughly the idea. We won't go through refining these things with you, because this is just a demo. We will only make our placar more complete. But how do you communicate with this link? This is determined based on your project. Okay, we'll stop here for this lesson.